All right, John, we're rolling.
All right, thank you, sir. Good morning, everybody. How's everybody? Very good?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Well, for those of you guys that weren't here yesterday, my name is John Sammons, and I am the Director of the Digital Forensics and Information Assurance Program at Marshall, along with being the Chair of the Department of Forensic Sciences. I want to talk to you guys today about vehicle forensics. This is a new and kind of a very new, and I think it's a quite compelling and quite interesting emerging source of evidence. And I want to show you guys some of the research that we've been doing and kind of give you a 50,000-foot view lay of the land of what's out there in terms of what's possible from a forensics perspective from these vehicles. All right, so a little disclaimer up front. I'm not employed, don't get any money from anyone, or if you see a logo on here, I don't get any money, kickback, or any of that kind of stuff from anybody that you see a logo from. Too bad. No, not really. All right, as far as my background, again, you know I'm from Marshall. Back in the day, I actually was a Huntington police officer for about 10 years. All right, so typically when we investigate somebody today, when the evidence is collected at the scene, an arrest is made, whatever, what typically is collected is, let's say, their personal computer, mobile devices, etc. Those are the standard things that can provide a tremendous amount of evidence. But what I'm going to tell you today is I think there's going to be a third leg to that stool, if you will, and that's going to be the vehicle. And there's several compelling reasons why I think we need to pay attention to what's going on here. It is a potentially rich source of evidence. There are, depending on the make and model of the vehicle, there are a large number of artifacts that could potentially be recovered and could be very compelling in terms of investigation. All right. Someone yesterday mentioned Locards exchange principle, and this is where Locards plays a big role in vehicle forensics. I'll explain how. You may know what Locards exchange principle is. Never heard of it? You probably know it, but you just haven't heard it kind of formally introduced and defined. Basically, Locard was a pioneer in forensic science back in the late 1800s. And basically what he kind of theorized was that anytime the two surfaces come in contact, there's going to be an exchange of material. All right? So if you think about the real world, all right, in terms of a crime scene, a suspect enters the crime scene, let's say I go over here and stab Matt, I walk in the door, there's going to be an exchange possibly with the fibers from the carpet on my shoes. I stab Matt, Matt's blood's going to get on me. If I've got a bloody hand, I may have to grab the doorknob, etc., etc. I may grab this chair and leave some DNA. So there's that exchange in kind of the real world perspective. Well, this same principle applies to the digital environment. So it's helpful to use that lens. Again, anytime there's a contact made, there's going to be residue or artifacts. All right? So Locards provides a pretty handy lens for us to help identify the potential evidence inside these vehicles. There's Edmund right there, distinguished scholarly folk. All right, so again, anytime there's contact, there's going to be transfer. Latent Prints, digital is the same. In terms of IP addresses, connections, logins, file download, etc., etc. All right, now a little background on the connected car, as they're called. All right, basically, 30 years ago, the first software was introduced in a vehicle. So this has been around for a little bit, but we're just now starting to realize the evidentiary potential, all right, and also the ability to collect this stuff. So it started 30 years ago. So what's a connected car? Let's define that. Depends on who you ask what a connected car is. Lots of definitions out there. Here's one: a vehicle that provides internet access to all mobile devices used by the driver and passengers. Vehicle that provides internet access to all mobile devices used by the driver and the passenger. It accesses the internet via cellular or satellite communications and provides tablet-sized screens for passengers or a Wi-Fi hotspot for passengers' own devices. IBM is a vehicle capable of seamless integration with multiple systems connecting consumers to the digital world. So there is 10 times the amount of binary code in these vehicles than there is in the 737, believe it or not. These smart cars or connected cars can have up to 70 electronic control units in them. There's some of the typical ECUs you see in today's modern connected car. Now there's multiple systems inside these cars. Some are more, have more of a forensic value to us than others. So pretty much the systems in the vehicle of forensic interest to us is the infotainment system, the telematic system, and the navigation system. Infotainment, telematic, and navigation. So what exactly is an infotainment system? Anybody know? How would you define that? Have you guys had one in your car? Really? Okay, good. A few of us do. We're probably all going to have it at some point. It's going that direction for sure. Let's define this infotainment system. Basically, how it's defined is information plus entertainment. Okay. Telematics is telecommunications plus informatics. Navigation, of course, is just the geolocation, i.e. the latitude, longitude, maps, etc. But wait, there's more. Safety systems, all right. Driver fatigue, anger detection, all right, stress detection. All these things are either here or on the way, believe it or not. Advanced seats can detect heart rate variability. They also make seat belts that do this. Can you imagine hopping into your car pissed off and your car recording all that? All right. Infotainment services. All right. In-car Wi-Fi. Think of all the devices pairing with the vehicle. We can then do that through Locards, connecting that person to the car or that person's device. Games and internet browsing could be in there. Browser history, login info, search terms. All that stuff sounds familiar, right? Social networks can be connected. Social networks and vehicle to vehicle. That's coming. We're going to be able to talk and interact with other drivers on the road, sharing, let's say, driving conditions, etc. So sharing these similar users, you're going to get common interest and also proximity. So now we can find somebody and put them on the road, all right, at a certain place and time by, getting evidence from one of these cars passing by they've interacted with. Route planning. Home and car. That car is going to start to pair with the house. All right, your smart. You may see the smart refrigerators. You've seen all those. Those things are going to start to talk to everything else. Maps of available parking spots. So again, we're going to be able to put somebody at least in a vicinity, or the car. Vehicle to infrastructure. Integration with wearables. Could record the heart rate, blood sugar readings, and on and on. Driver profile preferences, climate, seat position, favorite radio station, etc. All that stuff could be exported and imported. So now we can say if our suspect is 6'5", we've got maybe a seat position to verify that was in or to add evidence that he or she was in the car, right? Could be very helpful. Driver behavior. You guys have probably all seen these progressive. Can't think of the name of that widget. Anybody remember? Probably seen it.
Safe driving something.
Safe driving something. So all this stuff can be recorded. Actually already been used in a case. Snapshot insurance device. All right, is used to clear this guy murdering his 7-month-old daughter. Already happening. Smart home integration. Car is going to start talking to your house. Syncing your calendar, for example. Amazon. has already started or is integrating with Ford. So that Amazon Alexa technology. You guys aware of the Amazon Alexa in a criminal case down south? That device was in the room where somebody was murdered. They were drowned in a hot tub, and the authorities down there, theorized that Amazon Alexa may have recorded the conversation just prior to the murder. So they got a search warrant for Amazon's data. And shockingly enough, Amazon wasn't excited about that. Of course, we're going to add in the cloud. So now your car is going to have a cloud connection. More and more and more data. So one of the cool things about these kind of arrangements, all right, is you've got artifacts left in multiple locations. So a lot of times if somebody is smart enough to recognize some of this, even if they've tried to do some kind of forensic countermeasure, all right, there's a distinct possibility there's other artifacts in other places. So our data, these artifacts, is going to be extremely sticky. A lot of it. So, what can we get? What is the realm of possibility? Varies widely by make and model. Not all cars are equal here. All right? Definitely not all cars are equal. Things we can get are user data, call logs, SMS messages, that kind of thing. Navigation data, waypoints and track points, bookmark destinations. Vehicle event data. This is awesome. Depending on the make and model of the car, some of these vehicles will actually record the date and the time and the latitude and longitude that the doors were open and closed, the trunk was open and closed, and in some instances every time the brake is applied. So if you imagine every time you hit the brake, there's a little tick mark that's recorded by this system. Provides a perfect breadcrumb trail. Imagine finding the dead body from that. All right, or if you're a drug dealer, finding the source houses, that kind of thing. All right, we've done some research at Marshall, looking into this a little bit. So what's the research question one that we started out with, what user artifacts are deposited on the vehicle infotainment system from a mobile device after syncing? What user artifacts are actually on the vehicle from a mobile device after you synchronize it? Question two, different artifact yields from different infotainment systems. So if you got a different system, are they consistent across these platforms? Question three, how persistent are these artifacts? What happens to them when the device is unpaired? What happens when you select remove personal data? Test vehicle selection. Very tough. We're trying to budget this year for 17 cars, but I've been unsuccessful thus far, and that's a joke, by the way. We're having to find them where we can get them, and we're having to borrow them, basically. So the challenge is finding a car that you can get into temporarily, and then a car that's supported by the tool that we use, all right? One of the other issues we had is that the acquisition method varies widely from vehicle to vehicle. Some of these are very invasive. You got to take a lot of things apart to get to it. Others simply through a USB. So we intentionally limited our vehicle selection here to models that were USB accessible, because we're not comfortable taking these cars apart that aren't ours. So we limited our study in this point of the research to vehicles with a USB access only. So with a USB access, there is no disassembly required. So the protocol, how do we do this? We use there's only one commercial tool available to do this at the moment. There's only one game in town. So we bought that tool and use it at Marshall. The tool consists of hardware and software. This is very similar to mobile device forensics. There's a lot of parallels here. We broke this down into 5 phases. Once we had our test vehicle selected, which was a used car, so we anticipated data being on it. First thing we did was perform a baseline acquisition. Baseline acquisition. Just to see what was there from the beginning. Phase 2 was introduce a phone of ours, and then decline the sync, and then do a second acquisition to see what was there, if anything. Phase 3, reintroduce our phone. This time we're going to accept the sync, and then acquire it again. Phase 4, unpair the data and acquire it. Phase 5, remove personal data and acquire it. We had a snag right out of the gate. For whatever reason, we could not pair our device with that vehicle infotainment system. Excuse me, no matter what we did, this would not pair. So with that part of the project, we had to shelve temporarily. So the data acquisition is simply done with a laptop and a couple of cables, or a cable in this instance. You just have to have the software, somewhere to dump the data, and the cables that are provided by the tool manufacturer. So how much time does it take? So we actually had 2 cars, we had 2 cars in this first go round. We had vehicle 1 and vehicle 2. So there's our different acquisitions. We had 3 acquisitions on each vehicle. So acquisition 1, vehicle 1 only took 15 seconds, all right, and 4 seconds to import. Vehicle 2, 15 minutes, 32 seconds. Acquisition 2 was consistent for vehicle 1, a little less for vehicle 2. And acquisition 3, 13 minutes and 55 seconds. Now the commercial tool says, again, it varies widely from system to system. I think the longest time I have seen that they estimate an acquisition take is 6 to 8 hours on a Ford, newer model Fords. So how much data did we get? For vehicle 1, we only had 1.43 megs. Vehicle 2, depending on the acquisition, we had 2.18 to 2.25 megs of data we were able to extract. Vehicle 1, the luxurious Dodge Dart, 2013. A Uconnect 8.4 system, infotainment system in the dashboard. So basically this was pretty much, didn't have to use the tool on this. You basically copy user data onto a thumb drive to export the data. So there really was no forensic thing required. And then you import that data into the tool. So the acquisition was done just through a USB drive, all right? Very limited results on this one. Did not get a lot. Primarily all we got was a little bit of geolocation data. So it was not a lot. A lot of what we found was actually in East Asia. I'm assuming where the car was manufactured. Or at least, so I'm not sure. There was very little user interaction with the system. Not sure why. Vehicle number 2, Toyota Highlander, 2013. Use a thing called a Toyota extension box. Toyota extension box. So again, there's the USB connection from the dash. No disassembly required. So what do we get from the Toyota? We found there's 13 quote-unquote devices, and I'll explain the asterisks in a second. 1,347 contacts, 603 call log entries, 22 media files, and 18 location and addresses. So not all devices are actually devices, according to the tool. So the tool called things devices that really weren't. All right. Those that were the asterisks basically was our acquisition. So once we connected, all right, it saw us as a device. It put us in that same category. So here's a copy or view of the call log or the the geolocation data, note the latitude, longitude here. Names, addresses, zip codes, all that good stuff. Call logs. Talking to Butch, and Jamie, and Elizabeth, and David. So what happens when we unpaired it? No reduction in devices. For whatever reason, the call logs dropped from 1,347 to 819. Call logs were stable. Media files were stable. So we did find out that the acquisition did write to the system, which is a concern forensically only because we are now writing to the evidence, all right? But that is not, there's no big time to panic, all right? Or not time to panic. In mobile device forensics, a lot of the time we're actually writing a little bit of code to the device as well. So this is not unheard of. You just need to be aware of what's going on and be able to explain it. So it recognized our system as a device. So that also needs to be taken into account. It matched exactly the date and time of the acquisition. Listed as an unknown device. So now what happens when we delete? What do you think? Want to take a bet? Good bet. Solid bet. Solid bet. Yep. Shockingly enough, still there. So there is the legendary delete personal data button. All right. So you hit that, and you get a lot of warnings that all your data is going into the digital oblivion. All right. Unless you've got a forensic tool, which is the same with a lot of devices. So here's what we've got. So before we remove the personal data, what we were able to get from the devices, we got things like the IMEI, the phone version, the unique number, Apple ID, last sync, all right? So after the removed personal data, we still got the devices, the phone version, unique number, Apple ID, and last sync. What we didn't get was that IMEI. You may know what an IMEI is.
It's the network entry.
It's the International Mobile Equipment Identifier, okay? So that was gone. Contacts, same. Call logs, the same. Media, the same. So there is a little bit of data that's gone, but much of it is still there.
The IMEI, was it there when you did the
First one?
Yeah, when you did the first one and you rejected the sync, was it there?
Not with we didn't. Yes, it was because we were pulling phones that were already paired with the system, so we weren't able to pair our device.
Okay.
So that's one thing we want to be able to test. Total number of records. Pretty much same number of records. All right. So a little bit of the details changed. Same number of records. One thing we did try to do was a chip off. We had actually got a third-party aftermarket infotainment system and tried to actually pull the memory chip and do a chip-off acquisition. We were unsuccessful. Partly because we didn't have the $2,500 chip reader that may be required to get the data. So there's likely a way to do it. You just need to have some depops and have the proper hardware to get it off. So that's the problem.
That would be the case if, like, the car was in such a shape that you couldn't get it to come on.
Could be, or if, let's say, if it's somehow they start to lock the data down, there may be a way to get to it, bypassing whatever security they have. Might be another way to do it. Or if it's not supported by the tool, which is a lot. I think the last number I had, we'll talk about that here in just a minute. Vehicle 3, acquisition only. Now, we had a Ford F-150 from 2015. Had a Ford Sync Gen 2. So it's not the current version, it's the one behind what's out there now. I think we're in Ford Sync Gen 3. What it looked like. Here's the infotainment system mounted in the dash. So now to start taking it apart. This is the level, a little bit of the level of what you could expect as far as disassembly goes. One thing we were able to get were event logs. Those event logs contain the latitude, longitude, and date, time, and also an event identifier. Passenger door closed, 2015-01, 124-17, 2346. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Gave us the odometer readout. Driver door closed. Attached devices. Device name, Jim's iPhone. Gives the unique number type. Files. File name, file path, original file path. Created on, last read, last written on. SMS messages. Date, time, to, from. Body of the message, device identifier. We did not get any personal messages out of there. What we did get were these canned messages. In other words, that's like, be there in a minute, on my way, running late, that kind of stuff.
Did that vehicle have a voice-to-text feature?
Don't know. This was done by one of our partners in the military. So I wasn't actually there when they got that vehicle. Call you back in a few minutes, stuck in traffic, that kind of thing, which may have been that voice-to-text kind of stuff. Had track points, latitude, longitude, bearing, distance in miles, the speed. Waypoints, latitude, longitude, names entered by the user, such as Tom's, street address, zip code, and the city. Captured the devices as well. All right, so as far as future work goes, where we go from here. We need to be able to test more in different systems. We need deeper pockets. There's a tremendous amount of stuff out there that still needs to be explored. We need to start looking into artifacts from paired encrypted devices. This is one of the things that right now, at least in the short term, is kind of compelling here with all the issues we're having with Apple and encryption. It may be that the evidence or the data you're looking for that's encrypted on the mobile device, from the mobile device may be available in an unencrypted state on the vehicle. So here may be a second source. Need to look into the different artifacts from different systems. The tool just had an update, I think about 2 months ago, and it included a bunch of Mercedes vehicles, which those appear to be very rich in artifacts, a lot of that biometric stuff. You know, the anger detection, stress detection, all that kind of stuff. All right, let's see. Let's get through this part of this. So what kind of evidence can we get here? All right. Communication and location might be interesting as far as a criminal case goes. Again, this is the second source of evidence. If we don't have access to the device, let's say the user's mobile device, the same data that we could get from the mobile device may be in the vehicle, and it might even be in an unencrypted state. Communication, call logs, SMS, and social media. Location, can we put the suspect near or with the victim? Again, think of Locards. Could we put the victim in the suspect's vehicle? Did the victim's device pair with the suspect's vehicle? Traveler cases in dealing with child predators. Imagine if they're going to map out the route they're going to take from their home to meet the child, for example. The challenges and potential. What can we expect down the road, and what's the future kind of look like? Potential is huge. Potential is absolutely huge. we're at the very tip of the iceberg here. Much research needs to be done. One of the things we're working on now, or just got done doing, was trying to figure out a way to validate the evidence out of these systems. We just had our presentation accepted for the American Academy of Forensic Sciences meeting in February in Seattle. We found a way to validate geolocation data using a third-party tool. So here's what you're looking at. Look at the number of connected cars in the dark blue. Today, the non-connected cars far outnumber the connected cars, but that totally flips by 2020. So these cars are here to stay. There's going to be even more and more of them as we go forward. There's eventually going to be way more of these connected cars on the road than there are non-connected cars. So we've got to embrace that fact and leverage it. Estimates as high as the amount of data that's cranked out by one of these connected cars could be as high as 20 gigabytes an hour. 20 gigabytes an hour uploaded to the cloud for a single vehicle.
In 2015.
2020. That's the estimate. That's the article's estimating that. But. So right now there is only one commercial tool. Many cars that are out there are unsupported. Many of the cars that the tool says are supported actually aren't. Because what happens is occasionally you'll run across an instance where the firmware updates, for example, and that totally kills the tool's ability to connect and acquire the data. It also happens where the tool support is based on a certain model of infotainment system, and the manufacturer, for whatever reason, substitutes a different model. We had multiple failed acquisitions from rental cars, where the tool said it was supported. We tried to connect the tool with it, fought with it for probably 6 hours, unsuccessful. Called the tool maker and said, "Hey, what's going on with this?" And they said, "Well, actually, what size is the screen on the infotainment system?" So we measured it, and it was a different model. But it was only there was no way to tell except by either get into it or measure the screen size. Tool validation is a big problem, okay, right now, because all the tools that we use in forensics have got to be validated before they're used on actual live evidence. Everybody know what tool validation is? Making sure the tool works, does what it's supposed to do. Problem is, when you only got one tool out there, it makes this more problematic and challenging. So right now we're in that sort of cutting edge area with this tool. Evidence validation. How do we know the evidence is accurate? Also a challenge in this instance. If we had multiple tools we could use, all right, we can do this in a much easier manner. Kind of like that Casey Anthony case I mentioned yesterday about the searches for chloroform. Any questions? IBE, made by Perla. Perla. Do what?
It's like some teasing the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to stay neutral on it. Yeah. It's only one tool. It's made by Berla, B-E-R-L-A. Tool's name is IB, little I, big B, little E. And it's around $5,500.
How portable is it? In other words, would I have to bring the car to you, or could you go to the car?
We can go to the car. One of the cool things they have is they have an app.
Because as you can imagine, most of the cars I have access to don't run anymore.
Oh, right, sure. So what the app does, it connects you to their database. You can actually enter the VIN of the vehicle, and it will tell you whether it's supported or not. So that's kind of handy before you go to all the trouble to see if you can get to it. You run the VIN or the make, model, and trim package, and that'll tell you if the tool is supported or not. But again, it's not always accurate. It may say it's supported, and then in the end, it may not be. So there's a little bit of a difference there. Yeah.
So from a forensics perspective, it's nice that the personal information isn't actually deleted from the system, but from a personal perspective,
right.
It's click the button and said delete. You can expect it to be deleted. Did you report that back to the audit
if you hit the personal delete button on that, does it just mark the data to be overwritten? Then I can overwrite that data, and it's just not disappeared.
I think so,
it's still
but
there.
that's something we haven't tested 100%, but I think that's what happens. It's a lot like what happens on a hard drive where it's marked as unallocated space.
So that's why if I want to cover my tracks, I can just put something bogus phone in there and just
Yeah,
overwrite
but
it.
you've got to, could you introduce enough data to overwrite?
Yeah.
That's the problem.
If it has, 32 gigs of storage on the thing, then it'll take you a long time.
Yeah.
Writing 2 megs of data.
Yeah, well, and, what do you do when you want to sell your car? That's the bigger issue because my wife and I just bought a used car, and her car, going to pair my phone with it, it says it's got somebody else's iPhone still paired to it. And I haven't even gone through it enough to figure out how do I even remove that iPhone. That's rental cars too.
Oh yeah, rental.
Yeah, rental cars are a big one. In fact, that's what Burley uses for their training, rental cars. And they were saying, anecdotally, I talked to the CEO actually, it's a small company, and he was saying on average, from your rental car, they get 70 different devices out of it. So, and he was finding, on certain models, he didn't say which one, but they actually had instances in their research that they did where even if you decline to sync, data is transferred. Even if you decline to pair it, there's going to be some kind of transfer there, but there's going to be some log at least of that device being in contact with the car.
I can see how the device would be in contact with the car, but my contact should still not be.
You're right, in theory.
So, have you tried using the ODB2 to see what you can get from that?
Not yet. That's one thing we're looking at. That's something a little bit more invasive, but that's definitely what we want to do, for sure. If they want to donate me a car, we'd be happy to.
Did you ever try to put malware on it and see if it can infect the phone and
Not yet.
extract financial
Not yet.
data or something from it?
That's an idea.
That'd be a good idea.
I've not done that.
That's what I was at a B-Sides conference in Kansas City, and the car hackers that go to DEF CON conferences and bring those cars and they hack them. 2 of those guys work in Detroit. Now, they won't say what company they work for, but I can pretty much say they brought down a Volvo, so I'm not sure. Hit or miss, I don't know if they rented one or what. But one of their biggest concerns is when these car companies finally team up with Apple or Android and then start putting payment systems on these cars for music or whatever. And to them, that's going to bring the black hats over to start hacking these cars, and that's when all hell's going to break loose for them from a security perspective. And then what are we looking at? We're looking at thousands of dollars and people losing stuff. And when politicians lose money, that's when people pay attention to it. So it's a problem. It will be a problem.
Anybody else? So we're just starting as the Wild West. So we're very early in this, and there's going to be, I cannot imagine why the mobile forensic tool companies aren't moving into this space. There's got to be a competitor somewhere out there. So that may help move things along a little bit. But so far, nobody other than Burley. I think the chip-off stuff is another right avenue for research. Should be interesting. Anybody else? All right, that's all I got. You're welcome.
The session after lunch, the same session?
Actually, that's it.
Okay.
Yep, that is it.
I got the text saying
When does the Linux and SIFT start?
2
2
o'clock.
o'clock?
I think it was supposed to start after lunch, I think.
Okay, watch it like you said, it's good.
Okay.
Scott says it.
Crickets after that. They said they were ready to get back on it. honest with you, I've been overloaded and
Did you get
overwhelmed
the download?
I bet.
with other crap. Yeah, so class stuff and then outside class stuff especially, and
When you download it from Sammons, you have to register.
I was just curious.
Okay, so when you download it,
I wish.
password
I
to SIG.
would think that would be a great thing to get a hold of them.
So,
But, maybe next semester.
I might be able to work a little bit more next semester if we can.
so I was going to make sure stuff works still, and then we'll fire it up, get working, set it up.
I'm not
So
sure
do
how
stuff
to
with it.
do like
We'll do that.
and is this still due the 28th or it just has to be finished by the end of the semester?
So you're in there now? Your class are in now, or you're?
We're in the process of
Yeah.
not
I think I'm not supposed to go on until about 2.
She's all.
Just want to shake your hand.
Hey, buddy, what's going on, man? You doing good?
Yeah. Brought my kid too here.
Awesome. How are you?
So,
Let me shut this down. You have a question, sir?
Yeah, kind of. So I'm more interested in the information security side. Worked at car shops my whole life. I'm really interested in automotive security. What would be some tips from someone who's doing the forensic side on an introduction to career, looking at it from, because I'm 18, just started college, and I kind of have like an oyster in my hand.
Sure.
I'm thinking taking some engineering, learning some hardware, doing pen tests.
Yeah, if we had an electrical engineer with this, it'd be a lot easier. Kind of, especially if we're going to pull stuff apart. Or if we can find one of those next
As
semester.
soon as they finish it, they're
I'd be interested in helping us with this. There is a good book out there. It's Peach Pit Press. I think it's car hacking. I think is the name of it. It's car hacking. I think it's Peach Pit.
Yeah, it's a car hacker's handbook.
Yeah,
That's it. It was the guys I was talking about. They all work for automotive industry, and they wrote that book. So they get into into the ODB stuff. It's really cool. They're doing some really neat work, and I mean, it's going to be important. That kind of stuff.
Sure, it's definitely, it's like my dad works for Wells Fargo security, and so I've had IT in my blood, and also like ever since I've been a kid, I love cars. And so as soon as I figured out about like the G-Pack and the Ford Fusions and Ford Escapes, I was just like, that is what I want to do. I mean, I've worked at race shops and stuff. It's just cars and computers are like my life. And so when I saw this talk, I was super pumped.
Yeah, it's a up and growing industry. It hasn't totally just blew up yet.
Definitely some job security. But thank you for doing offer this stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you. No problem. Happy to do it.
Major respect.
Hey, John, you got a second before you leave?
Yeah, I'm just talking real quick.
Oh, okay, go ahead, I'll be last.
I'd love to do.
If are you based locally here?
From English,
Indiana? Okay. What part of Indiana?
Louisville, Kentucky area.
Okay. Okay, yeah, right there on the border. If I would keep an eye on like certain city colleges and B-sides to Indianapolis, those car hackers will bring the rig through when they come to those B-sides conferences. Maybe even Derby conference.
Yeah, they brought the odometers and stuff.
Oh, so they had the whole setup.
So I got to do all that. I actually at my house, I've got a 2000 dash. It's a 40. I mess with that all the time. I've got some ECUs from 5 work done. I don't know if I have time to tear apart hardware-wise.
But you have to be licensed.
Or software-wise. A lot of the stuff, I can't get my hand on newer stuff.
Right. Yeah.
ECU from like one new
Double
Ford.
check merch, maybe thinking something
I
online.
was looking into Toyota. I think they have
Yeah.
really bad security.
Yeah,
Well-
Is it a good place to start?
Yeah.
Like other than like messing with my own car, I have Scion, which I don't want to tear my ECU apart.
Yeah, you go on the side.
We, and I don't. Are you in college? Have you started college?
Yeah.
So, okay. Where do you go to school at?
IUS.
Okay.
Gotcha. I'm a detective at the law firm.
Yeah, one of the things that we're trying to get going now
But
is
they came to the
a
office.
friend of mine who I met, who was head of DC Metro's forensic unit. We're trying to get an agreement with them because they have a huge lot of forfeiture cars that they take. Because DC Metro, they're one of the biggest cities in the world, so they have one of the biggest forfeiture car lots that you can imagine. These cars that they take and wrecks, and drug forfeiture, and they just sit. They may be, old cruisers, but they can't do anything. So they're trying to get access to those so we can get that data out and get those different There's fairly new cars, and the department has no use for them. They can't put them back to auction because the case has been litigated. They're just like in this wasteland that they're just sitting out there.
Not that they're doing anything,
So
but
they get access to them.
I'm not
Yeah.
helping them out, like law firms,
They're doing nothing.
but I try to do things for them. The
Yeah,
interesting
no,
thing
it's
is
definitely,
that's
it's
what
like,
they're always
it's a
looking
career
for.
for
But also, if you want to do research, you just got to look at it on that presidency.
pretty long career cycles.
Yeah.
Nothing else.
Especially with like SOE
Yeah.
When you're like that,
Well,
if I got somebody social, I can find
I
them.
fully believe that in
But,
10 years we won't
if they're living
be
in
driving
their
for
they're not able
which
to.
makes me really sad. I'm still like on the same manuals movement. and
Yeah.
everything, but
Well, Google, if you look at some of their stuff that they're putting through like Project X right now, with their self-driving cars, they already have, prototypes of that. But the thing they're looking at next is to start to aggregate data from traffic flows. So they're basically taking all of these self-driving cars, they're taking all of that data and putting it together and say, okay, how far do we need to space these cars apart to keep traffic flow through the major cities with these automated cars? Well, that's all just demographic data, and then it takes it and then it runs through whatever algorithm it does. If I can mess with that algorithm, if I can hack that algorithm, then I can smash cars into each other and wreak havoc. And that's going to happen. You're going to see something like that happen at a small scale. Hopefully we don't see it on a large scale. But if we're moving in that direction, we have to secure that data.
I mean, you look at the Jeep Chrysler that was intentional.
Yeah.
That journalists and those car hacking people bought and said, all right, break it, and they did.
Yeah, if you watch that.
Steering, braking, lights, and status alarms for voters and stuff, all on one ECU now. It has nothing on it.
We had, when I was in Kansas City, they had that Volvo there. And that Volvo is completely touch interface, so it has no traditional odometer controls. Everything's electronic. Even the gear shift, everything's electronic. So they're inside, and of course they hack this ODP2 interface, which is all electronic. So we're literally telling that car what to do. We're causing the horn to honk, we're turning the air on and off. But the thing that they did that just kind of, whoa, wait a minute. They put the car in gear remotely. Whoa. You could literally, you saw the doors lock, and I thought, well, maybe they're just locking the doors. We're saving the car. They put the car in gear, which of course they tell the person, but they had to apply the brake, and they could do that electronically, which, most cars do, and then they put the car in gear. So, this is a concern, because if you're sitting in a car, if I can control the motion of that car, then...
So it's saying that this is...
Everything's electronic throttle and...
Yeah.
The fact that we even have pointless now because it's all electronic. Do the same thing.
Right.
And so it's a field that there's a lot of places that need super security and the forensics and all that. Automotive is it's really scary.
Automotive security. The automotive industry as a whole has buried their heads in security because they don't want to acknowledge the fact that maybe their car can be hacked and cause issues. And they're keeping that secret. Anyone who questions that or brings up that fact is kind of push down to the bottom because they don't want the media as a whole knowing that. That whole Jeep Chrysler thing was a PR nightmare. And they tried to. Yeah.
Right. I mean, you can only like find that article on dark web now.
Right.
They bought it off the
Right.
website, which I don't agree with that.
Well, what's gonna happen in order for, I think, serious change, and unfortunately I hope we move beyond that, is if we go to self-driving cars and someone hacks that interface and causes loss of life, and not just like one or two people. I'm talking, like a 9/11 type event, and that could happen because if I can automate to speed everyone's car up to 90 miles an hour and just cause them to start crashing into one another, you're going to see a very heavy loss of life. And to me, that's enough to say, okay, if even the possibility of that happening, we didn't throw money at this problem and cause that from not happening.
And by then we're gonna be so
Right.
Right. Because already now, like it's being questioned.
Yeah.
Like you said, as soon as money gets involved, all the black guys.
And yeah, a lot of stuff
little
is
bitches.
They follow the money.
Like making money, and then I mean, I'm sure that will be sometime around 2019, 2020. Because I mean, Apple Pay is already going, or Apple Music's already going.
See, that's all stuff.
Pay unions and stuff, and sooner or later Spotify is going to be there, and then you can buy, like, I'm sure you'll be able to buy, like, your Fast Pass or whatever.
That's where you're seeing the
And I
correction.
mean, and as soon as that happens, I mean, a lot of people are going to be a lot of bad places.
You're thinking exactly where those guys are thinking.
Really terrible.
She's done a lot of those.
And then it's just no I'm not sure when you're behind a screen, I mean, it's pretty easy to kill somebody and not think about it. And you look at the guy from Iran who hacked, or not
Yeah, but I'm saying, being around that stuff.
Brent somebody possibly. He didn't care.
That affects patients.
Yeah.
Medical devices. I mean, this extends far beyond cars. You know, we had a vice president a few years ago that had a pacemaker that was hackable. The easiest assassination attempt there, and not even knowing what happened. You know,
He would have just died. I mean, somebody, because it's the vice president, they would have figured out. But if it was just some person, it would have been another pacemaker failure. Like,
Cool.
well, I guess I alarmed it.
We're done.
And then,
You'll get out of here, I promise.
sorry,
You do the work.
maybe a lawsuit.
I know you would.
And
All right.
pacemaker saying big, big paper card saying he died. I mean, until like something like an assassination happens, this is not going to be a very well-known field.
I'll just see if I got any cards.
right now, you know, some of the hot topics you see there. You know, we have election measures. You know, of course, that's bubble.
Reasonably new early, he's talking about
Ransomware.
13 models.
Obviously.
What would be my, if I looked, we probably
Crosshairs.
always have a dozen cars.
I think the next big one
If you go to Perla.com,
will be vehicles. I really do. I think that at some point that will be next in line.
and there is
Just
a
like election
upper right-hand corner of the website, it says big BERLA.
I don't enjoy when
Maybe
techniques
co.
show up in media because they're all
That's
That's the right place.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it's not good.
and it's like, oh my god, you
And then
are the next
I think
target.
the upper right-hand corner is there a vehicle
Somebody's
looked up on the
gonna
homepage.
attack your car and steal your dog or something. And it's all like blown out of proportion. And now like
Click on
everybody's
that.
like,
You can just enter the
multiples
VIN,
need to be redone,
or you can enter the make, model, and trim package. It'll tell you if it's supported, and then give you another tab on pay
look
the
into
artifacts.
It's
Figure out
data,
some patches,
Okay, cool.
and it's,
And then if you have some
data
that
integrity.
are,
You know, it's
sometimes
we
things
can
are
actually
inevitable
take
if
it
we don't
destroy
keep track of
basically.
it.
well, you know, this is a good history lesson. If you're ever in being from your, in college, if you ever have to go to a history class, you know, we talk about, how the Trump won the election. Did he win because of Russian meddling? I don't know. But what I do know is historically this is nothing new. Harry Truman won the presidency because the papers started to report that people in Chicago were literally unburying dead people to vote for Dewey, who was his challenger. And Chicago even went to the extent to publish in the paper that Dewey beat Truman. They even put it out in the media, like, hey, here's our new president, knowing good and well that he hadn't won yet. That was just a media push to try to get the voters and the counters to say, hey, this race is over. I mean, it's nothing new. It's just a new medium in which we do it. So,
and now we've got Twitter and a bunch of 17-year-olds who didn't even vote.
Right. Yeah, but this stuff doesn't matter.
It's,
I mean, especially if it's ones that we're basically done with, because when we're done with
Part
it,
of my
we
friends
just
were
scraps.
bitching about something they didn't even take part in. I'm just like,
But now if it's one that's an active case,
you
you
don't
don't have
pay
to follow.
taxes, you don't, your parents still pay for your gas money. You should probably,
Yeah, I'll check and see. I
like,
think we
Twitter
can
fingers
go.
cool off.
That'd be great.
yeah,
That'd be super.
yeah, it's ever. I'm totally.
That's what's the biggest challenge. We gotta find the cars.
You are.
The cars are the dealerships we work with, but they're kind of the same stuff.
You know, we have a
same guy.
Yeah,
personal
exactly.
responsibility, us, as
Yeah,
just
I mean, you just gotta, you have to figure out what you're gonna do if the car doesn't
have
have any power.
integrity, data
We got power
integrity,
supply.
Okay.
and
Just
just
the way
like
they'll know all things.
voter process,
And some of
making
them
sure
will
when
be-
a person gets behind the wheel of a car that they're safe. When they get online and they make a transaction,
And if that's the
safe.
case,
That's important stuff in
we
this
don't
world.
care about.
You know, just as much as it was to protect credit card numbers 20 years
We take the
ago,
car out
it's
of the
just as
dash before you make our place and take those
the work that some of these guys do, it's amazing.
And if it's,
It's absolutely amazing. It's a lot of
what
people.
I'd like to
it takes
do is find a
effort to make
case
this
that
happen.
we need the information on.
You know, a lot of people look at this and they're like, you know,
Because
put
if we
these
bought you,
guys away because
if you were going to
that
testify
stuff.
for us in the case, we could
I
buy
couldn't say
you
it
cheaper
anymore.
if the case justified the cost.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, we work
I had a
It just be finding the right car.
I remember
Sure.
about information security.
Court's
And
concern,
like
this
my
is
3.4,
bleeding edge.
what it was,
Not a lot, this is not,
why
as
we
far as
need
I
it,
know,
and
never
what
been
will
in
happen
court.
if we can.
Alright, did anybody stop the recording?
Do what?
You want this talk over with?
Yeah.
Oh, did anybody stop the recording?
What will happen?
No, it's
So
still
we gotta
recording.
go.
Man,
This talking right here.
why are the volunteers